Now, according to the UN, 54 aid trucks have been allowed into Gaza so far, but humanitarian groups say that the number is not nearly enough to address the worsening crisis there. Rania Lawendy is the CEO of Action for Humanity Canada. She's been in contact with her organization's staff, which is on the ground in Gaza. She joins me now from Milton, Ontario. Thank you for your time. I know, as I say, you have staff inside Gaza. How are they doing? And talk to us about what it is they're doing there.
So, the situation is quite dire, like the doctor was saying. It's a struggle for everyone. It is almost impossible to actually give out the humanitarian aid. So if you can imagine constant bombing happening, just to even get supplies. One of the hospitals that we supply is Shifa Hospital, and it took us 3 days to be able to get medical supplies to them. And many, as the doctor was saying, many of the hospitals have been bombed. Many of them have now lost supplies, like completely are out of supplies or fuel and water. You can imagine the type of disease that happens when there is no access to clean water. In terms of distributing food, there's some food being distributed, but very little. We will eventually run out of the supplies within. We have supplies ready at the within the humanitarian corridor, but as the UN is saying, just so people can understand, on a daily basis, without this type of bombing happening, there are 100 trucks that go into Gaza daily. And so when you're talking about after 3 weeks, 54 trucks, that's a drop in the bucket and in no way going to help enough. So our staff are really explaining to us the dire need. It's very difficult. We were talking to one of our staff 2 days ago, and a bomb went off right beside him, and I haven't been able to reach him since. And so it's very, very difficult. And when you have humanitarian aid workers, there has to be some sort of safety. It's important that as Canadians, we call for a ceasefire so that humanitarian aid can get in, so that we can help people. 2.5 million people live in Gaza. It is an open air prison. Half of them are children. There are over 5,000 Gazans who have been killed, over 2,000 children who have been killed, over 1,000 women who have been killed. So the situation is absolutely horrific. Over 15,000 injured, and the hospitals cannot handle it. And the other thing about the humanitarian corridor that's important is that, and UN will tell you this too, is that they're not able to bring in, they're not allowed yet to bring in either fuel or diesel. So how are these hospitals supposed to function? How is the population supposed to get anything that they need?
Yeah, Rania, so I was going to say, I mean, clearly talking to you and talking to so many, the need for aid of all kinds is overwhelming. But if you had to pinpoint what is most needed right now, we've heard a lot about water being most needed, and not just by the hospitals, by the population at large. What would you say is the aid that is most needed right now, most dire for people in Gaza?
So I would honestly say fuel and water, and then food. And so the reality is I have friends who have family there, and they've run out of water, completely run out of water. We, as Action for Humanity, we have solar powered well that we did obviously prior to this, and it's supplying water. It's supplying water to over 15,000 inhabitants, but that's also still a drop in the bucket. Fuel is extremely important in order for hospitals to function. So they have cut power and electricity, obviously. And so how are you supposed to give aid and help the injured who are dying when they shouldn't be dying?
When we say that people have run out of water, what does that mean day to day? How are they? I mean, I don't want to be simple about this, but you can't survive for very long without water. So what are they resorting to?
Yes, so that's why the numbers are rising. We will begin to see people die from hunger, people die from lack of water, people die from injuries, right? So you have 15,000 injured. What do you think is going to happen when hospitals can't treat them? When you have waterborne diseases, so you have people taking salt water and boiling it to be able to try to drink it. When there's a lack of bathing, the waterborne diseases that are going to happen, you're going to see the death toll rise. The other thing is we know that there has been a warning that there is also going to be an on-ground invasion. which is going to also increase the situation. But people are actually also, by the way, moving from buildings to buildings because they don't know where safe is, because you go to a building and then the building beside you is bombed. The whole family goes there. There's, I think I read that there's 54 full families that have been wiped out, completely wiped out. So you get families of 50 to 100 that are, in little apartments trying to survive, and then a bomb goes off and it wipes them completely out. And so imagine for 3 weeks that now you don't have water, you don't have food. Even if you know where water is, you can't get to it. So even if you know there's a well somewhere, you don't have the diesel or be able to, the cars are bombed. There, it looks like a wasteland if you see, they're showing me videos and pictures from inside. And then at the same time, there are tons of trucks at the Rafah border. And by the way, the Rafah border, which borders Egypt to Gaza, was also bombed. And so there you have tons of trucks waiting, and then there's food also spoiling. And if fuel and diesel is not allowed to come in, eventually, and we're getting very, very close to this, hospitals will have to completely shut down.
Rania Lawendy, thank you so much for helping to paint that picture for us. That's the CEO of Action for Humanity Canada in Milton, Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.